One of the things the Republicans are looking at, as you know very well, is doing away with the so-called Obamacare surcharge on people earning a higher income.
Yeah.
So Republicans are looking at taking that away, or doing away with that, which would mean a tax cut, you've said, for people like you.
Yeah. Well, I brought my tax return along for last year. I filed this on April 15th. And if the if the bill that passed the House with 217 votes had been in effect this year, I would have saved, I can give you the exact figure, I would have saved $679,999, or over 17% of my tax bill. There's nothing ambiguous about that. I will be given a 17% tax cut. And the people it's directed at are couples with $250,000 or more of income. You could entitle this, Relief for the Rich Act or something, because I've got friends where it would have saved them as much as, it gets into the 10 million and up figure. But I might point out, might be an interesting question. I think members of the Senate and House get $174,000 a year, but most of them have, if you look at the disclosures, they have substantial other incomes. If they get to higher than 250,000 as a married couple, or 200,000 as a single person, they have given themselves a big tax cut if they voted for this.
Well, speaking of taxes, let's just use that as an entry point to talk about it. You shared some of your tax return with us for 2016. Thank you very much. But before I ask you about that, how wealthy are you? I mean, I'm reading that you're $77 billion.
99% of my net worth is in Berkshire Hathaway stock. Every share of that stock has been pledged to philanthropy. So I'm a trustee for that stock. So it'll go to society. And then a good bit of the rest will as well. But if you add up what's in my name, we go down to my safe deposit box, and we will find some stock certificates that are worth that much. But as I've written, they have no utility to me. They can't do anything to make me happier. I'm already happy. I'd be happy with, certainly with $100,000 a year, I could be very happy. And they can't buy anything for me that I want. If they did, I would buy it. And they do have utility to others, so I've got this system to essentially try and translate that into vaccines and education and all of that sort of thing.
The reason I bring that up, Warren Buffett, is that that's your wealth, your worth, and yet on your tax return, you earned 19 million something, right. 19.5 million last year. Your effective tax rate was 16.3%, which we looked it up. This is what an average couple, a married couple, no children, taking the standard deduction would pay on an income of $136,000. In other words, a couple you earn 143 times more than they do, but your tax rate is the same as they do.
Yeah, I pointed that out in the past, and it's even worse than you say, Judy, because you're looking at what that couple would pay in federal income tax, but they are also paying payroll taxes in overwhelming cases. And my cleaning lady has a 15% tax, just from the Social Security that she and her employer pay. But it's kind of incredible. And now they want to cut it. They want to cut it for me. I look like somebody that deserves a cut.
Well, the Republicans are talking about lowering taxes.
Absolutely. They want to cut my tax 17%. They saw those figures and were shocked that I was paying that much, apparently.
But I mean, among other things, they're talking about doing away with some of the deductions, charitable deductions, maybe mortgage deductions, maybe state and local taxes paid as deductions. Do you have a thought about all those?
You can't really talk about specifics without looking at the whole thing. But if they're talking about making it revenue neutral, I think if they're going to make it revenue neutral, it ought to be something other than revenue neutral for the guys like me. Our rate should go up, allowing others to go down somewhat. I think there ought to be minimum taxes for people that make 10 million a year, and a different one at $1 million a year, but certainly at 10 million a year.
They also, as you know, want to tackle business corporate tax rates. They're talking about the current corporate rate, lowering it from 35 to 15%. The president's talked about, I guess Speaker Paul Ryan this week said 20%. What would that mean for you?
Well, it would mean for Berkshire, in all probability, that we would pay less in U.S. federal income taxes. But until you see the final thing, you can't tell. Berkshire Hathaway is the second largest corporation on the Fortune 500 this year. I don't know any case where our competitiveness is being hurt by the federal income tax rate on corporations.
Estate taxes, a thought about that?
Oh, estate taxes. I mean, you hear people call it the death tax. There are going to be 2.5 million people die in the United States this year. How many estate tax returns are going to be? Probably about 5,000. And the interesting thing is, if I talk to somebody about welfare mothers or something like that, they say how debilitating it is to have these food stamps and it takes away their incentive to do anything. If a kid comes out of the right womb in this country, they've got food stamps for the rest of their life. They just call them stocks and bonds, and their welfare officer is their trust officer. I mean, I think having a significant estate tax that starts at a fair-sized level is if you're going to have to raise $3.5 trillion, I think that's a good source of revenue, and it shouldn't apply to 99% of the people.
You've been very open about your own taxes, and people have taken a look at that, and they've also looked at Berkshire Hathaway. It has been pointed out that Berkshire Hathaway does take advantage of the legal ability to defer taxes, and I saw a number, something like $75 billion
well, that's because we
in
haven't
deferred
cashed
taxes.
Things that just like you, if you've got a stock that's gone up a whole lot, until you sell it. But that's just the law, and we don't have any of the Cayman Islands or anything like that stuff. But we follow the law, and we've got 1 million shareholders, and I think they probably expect us to do that. That doesn't mean I don't think the law shouldn't be changed in some way. But I follow the law in terms of my personal return. I do not send an extra $5 million to the Treasury.